He thought he'd married the love of his life. 1 month after the wedding, a single wrong swipe on his wife's phone shows him everything he wasn't supposed to see. No screaming, no confrontation. Instead, he smiles, kisses her goodnight, and starts planning. What begins as suspicion turns into a calculated game of suggestion, temptation, and psychological pressure until she can no longer tell what's real and what's bait. And when the truth finally comes out, it won't be in private. This isn't just revenge. It's precision. Some moments in life don't come with warning bells. They slip in quietly, like a hand sliding under a tablecloth. You don't know what's happened until you feel the grip. For me, it was a Tuesday night, sitting on our worn leather couch, half watching some forgettable Netflix drama. Sarah was stretched out beside me in her silk robe, legs bare, the faint scent of her lotion drifting toward me. The kind of moment that should have been soft, domestic, safe. She handed me her phone without looking up from the TV. Order Thai? You know my usual. I took it, thumb already moving toward a delivery app, when my swipe landed one screen too far left. It was a photo, not one I'd ever taken, not one I'd ever seen. Sarah, my wife of just over a month, was kneeling on an unfamiliar hotel bed, her hair wild, robe half off her shoulder. The kind of photo taken mid-act, when no one's thinking about lighting or angles, just raw want. A man's hand gripped her hip. His face wasn't visible, but his presence was undeniable. The way she leaned into him, the shadow of his chest in the corner of the frame. The timestamp burned into me. Saturday, 11:47 p.m. She'd been at her mom's that night. My heart didn't slam into my ribs. My fist didn't clench. I didn't even stop breathing. Instead, there was a strange stillness, like my body had just slipped underwater. I swiped back to the home screen, pulled up the delivery app. Extra fries? I asked, my voice calm enough to scare myself. She smiled without looking away from the screen. Always. We ate dinner like nothing had happened. I kissed her cheek when she laughed at some dumb line from the show. We had sex that night, not hurried, not angry, but slow. I memorized the way she arched her back, the way she whispered my name. She didn't know I already saw the truth behind her lips. I didn't sleep. By 3 a.m., I had the start of a plan. Confronting her now would give her control. She'd cry, spin some story, maybe even turn it on me. No, this wouldn't be a fight. This would be theater. The first move had to be subtle. That Friday, we met up with friends for drinks. Chloe was there, Sarah's best friend since high school, a brunette with sharp eyes and a laugh that seemed to ripple through a room. I'd always kept a polite distance, but that night I let my gaze linger. Not obviously, just enough for Sarah to catch it out of the corner of her eye. When Chloe teased me about my drink choice, I leaned in close to answer, my hand brushing her forearm. I could feel Sarah's stare even as I kept smiling at Chloe. It wasn't about making Chloe want me. It was about making Sarah think she did. The second move came a week later. I started coming home late, telling Sarah I was buried at work. In reality, I parked 2 streets away and sat in my car, scrolling my phone, listening to the quiet tick of the engine cooling. That's when I brought in the lipstick. A bold red, not Chloe's shade, but bright enough to catch Sarah's eye. I left it in my jacket pocket, sometimes on the passenger seat, never in the same place twice. By the second week, I could feel her watching me more closely. Her eyes followed me when I answered my phone, when I laughed at a text. She never said anything, just smiled a little too tightly. The tension between us thickened. One night, as I stepped out of the shower, she stood in the doorway, her robe loose, hair still damp from her own bath. Late again tomorrow? She asked, voice light, but her gaze sharp. Probably, I said, towel in my hair. Big project. She walked toward me, her fingers sliding across my chest, nails grazing my skin. Make sure you're not getting distracted. Her lips brushed my ear. You know how I get when I'm jealous. We kissed then, hard, her mouth insistent, her hands gripping me like she was trying to pull me back into her. I let her, for now. By the third week, I had more than just her paranoia. I had her impatience. That Friday, I forgot to clear my notifications. A message popped up from C, vague enough to keep her guessing, with nothing more than "last night was fun," winky face. I could see her see it, the way her pupils tightened, the way her breath slowed. She didn't ask. Not yet. Good. Let it build. When she finally broke, I wanted it to be public. I wanted the crack to be loud, irreversible. I was almost ready. Almost. But the truth was, there was a part of me, a dark, curious part, that wanted to see how far she'd go to hide what I already knew. Whether she'd try to seduce me into forgetting or double down with her lover. Either way, she'd give me the perfect ending. And when it came, she wouldn't see it coming. I woke before the alarm, gray light pressed to the blinds. Sarah lay half on me, her thigh warm over mine, her breath settling me and unsettling me at once. I kept still. When you're preparing a storm, stillness looks like mercy. You were talking in your sleep, she murmured. Said a name. Whose? A pause. Didn't catch it. Her hand drifted down my stomach. I hardened, then moved her wrist back to my chest. Early meeting. Annoyance flickered, then charm smoothed it. Right, she said, and kissed my neck. Steam made a stranger of me in the shower. The photo played behind my eyes. Her on a hotel bed, a man's hand on her hip, the timestamp anchoring the lie. It wasn't the sex that hurt. It was the ritual around it. The taxi, the key card, the practice laugh. Betrayal wears routine like a uniform. I built my props at lunch. A second lipstick, a bar receipt slid into my wallet, a swipe of new cologne on my cuff. Innocent, suggestive, portable. They do most of the talking. That night she cooked pasta and opened red wine. How was work? She asked, pressing a glass into my hand. Long. I let my fingers trace her wrist. Missed you. Her pupils widened. Desire is a traitor to truth. Chloe says hi, she added too lightly. She's funny, I said. You ever notice the little dimple she gets before she says something cruel? Sarah's smile didn't reach her eyes. You notice everything. Only what matters. We ate, but the room stayed hungry. At the stove the pot hissed. I slid behind her, mouth to the place her pulse lives. She tilted her head and made a sound that made me hard again. Bed, she gasped. In the bedroom, I undressed her slow to watch her want it. When I pressed her down and she hooked a leg around me, the noise she made cut clean through my plan. I took my time, mouth at her throat, hand firm at her hip, rhythm patient enough to make her plead. She whispered my name like she trusted it, and for a sliver of a minute, I believed we were still the thing we said we were. After, she lay with her ear to my chest. Don't make me jealous, she said, soft-edged. I won't. I lied into her hair. She slept early. In the dark, I texted Chloe. Need talk. About Sarah. Drinks? Just us. A gamble, but I knew what bait Chloe liked. Purpose dressed up as concern. Name the place. She replied almost instantly. I chose a loud bar Sarah hated. Before sleep, I nested a fresh lipstick with the first in my glove box. Twins waiting to be discovered. Morning brought brightness that felt rehearsed. Might be late, Sarah said over coffee. Inventory. The word didn't fit her mouth. I kissed her temple, and we left together, tidy as a picture frame. At my desk, I stared through emails and opened a folder on my phone labeled taxes, which was not taxes. Screenshots. Snippets I grabbed the night I found the photo. His messages were careful and bored. Usual place. Same room. Same. Usual. Clean lines for me to cut along. I refined my cues. Leave one suggestive notification visible. Answer call with a floor creaks. Buy a bottle we once said made us reckless, and pretend someone recommended it. Proof proves. Suggestion corrodes. I only needed corrosion. Chloe arrived that evening in a red dress that made the bar's mirrors confess. She hugged me and let it linger. You look wrecked, she said, resting a hand on my arm as if checking a pulse. Worried, I said. Sarah is off. I don't want to be stupid. Chloe's eyes sharpened. Picking sides is her favorite sport. What do you need? If she vents to you, tell me. Or tell me I'm imagining it. I let our knees touch under the table and didn't move them. You're not imagining it, she said, then caught herself. The dimple appeared. She's been intense. How? Jealous. Asking if I think you're attractive. I smiled like it was harmless. Do you? Her gaze held. You know, we didn't drink enough to blame anything on it. And we didn't kiss. He'd still followed us outside. At my car, she tucked hair behind her ear and looked at my mouth before she looked at the street. You're a good man, she said, meaning I could be worse if asked. I drove home and let the dashboard clock roll past midnight. The house was dark. Inventory, I told the steering wheel. I placed a lipstick on the passenger seat like a flag and practiced the face I'd wear asleep. Open, unguarded, a man unprepared for weather. The door opened at 12:41. I patted the bed and sank into the shape of my old breathing. She stood in the doorway. A pause heavy enough to prickle my skin, then slid in and pressed her body to mine. Her hair smelled like a place that wasn't our bedroom. Or maybe that was my anger giving itself perfume. Long night? I asked. MMH. She traced a line down my chest. You weren't home either. Drink with a friend. I let the word hang. Chloe? I didn't answer. I let silence pour into the room and set. She tucked her face into my neck, like she could anchor me with weight alone. The crack was there now, thin, musical. Tomorrow I'd widen it. I would laugh at a harmless text. I would leave cologne in the laundry. I would watch her watch me and count the beats until glass let go. And when it did, I'd already be at the center with a rope and the proof. I slept like a man sharpening a blade by ear. I woke to the weight of her gaze before I felt the weight of her arm. Sarah was propped on an elbow, tracing my shoulder with a fingertip, like she was reading a language she half remembered. I pretended to be asleep until her touch went from soft to searching. You smile when you dream, she said when I stirred. What's the joke? Wouldn't you like to know? I murmured, catching her finger in my mouth. She shivered. Morning softened between us. I rolled her onto her back and kissed the thin place where her ribs meet. Her breath lost its footing. I could have had her then. Slow, unhurried, the kind of sex that tastes like forgiveness. I let the moment hover and stepped back from it like from a ledge. Hunger is a better tool than mercy. No time, she asked, surprised. Meeting, I said, buttoning my shirt. Rain check. By the car, my chest felt like a fist I couldn't unclench. I opened the glove box, looked at the twin lipsticks, identical in their small eyes. I left one in the cup holder, obvious without being theatrical. Redundancy keeps stories alive. At lunch, I texted Chloe a photo of a menu with thanks for last night. She sent back a wink and nothing else. Minimalist complicity. Useful. Sarah pinged it too. Dinner with the group tonight? Eli's at 8. You free? Perfect. Friends meant audience. I called Eli and asked for a corner table with sight lines. You don't choreograph disaster from the cheap seats. At home, Sarah wore a black dress that carved new geography out her body. Desire almost overruled strategy. She watched me watching her and tilted a hip. Who are we trying to impress? Each other, I said. She smiled like she wanted to believe me. On the drive, her hand on my knee, the lipstick bright in the cup holder. She saw it. Her thumb tapped my leg twice, the tell she didn't know she had when choosing between asking and accusing. She chose neither. Eli smelled like garlic and low music. Chloe arrived last, breathless and shining, hugging Sarah first, then taking the seat beside me. Sarah clocked the arrangement, then folded her napkin with unnecessary care. We talked about weather and work until a banner lit my phone. Just thinking about last time. A lie-wearing flirtation. I let it glow and fade. No one mentioned it, but everyone saw it. The table shifted on its axis. So, Sarah said, smiling a little too wide. Chloe, any sharks in the dating pool? Only minnows pretending, Chloe said. Her knee brushed mine under the table. Not an accident. You two have been spending time, Sarah added, voice light as foam that hides a rock. We grabbed drinks, Chloe said easily. He worries about you. It's sweet. Is it? Sarah said, eyes on me. Only that I love you, I told her, true in a way that sharpened everything else. Food arrived and cooled as we pretended to enjoy it. When the check came, Eli pushed for a nightcap at the bar across the street. Sarah stood and kissed me longer than necessary, tongue sweeping for acclaim. Witness mattered tonight. I let her. The bar was loud, mirrors, and was sticky with other people's evenings. I bought a round and accidentally over-tipped when the bartender touched my wrist. Sarah's eyes filed the detail. Chloe leaned near and whispered, careful. Of what? Of getting exactly what you want. On the dance floor, Sarah pressed her back to my chest and rolled her hips in time with the bass. Heat unspooled low and easy. I found the soft place beneath her ear and felt a shudder move through her. For a second, desire argued for mercy. Strategy won. In the bathroom, I practiced a face that said nothing and everything. A text from Chloe buzzed. She's going to ask, do you want her to? I typed not here, then erased it. Some words work better as ghosts. When I returned, Sarah was whispering with Eli's girlfriend. Chloe toyed with cherry stem. I took the stem, tied a knot with my tongue, and set it on a napkin like a trick with sharp edges. She bit her lip and shook her head, amused and alarmed. Outside for air, Chloe smoked a cigarette she didn't want. She's spiraling, she said. I know. You're cruel. I'm precise. There's a difference? She stepped close enough that I could have closed the rest. I didn't. Call me when it breaks. You'll hear it, I said. Back inside. Sarah waited with her coat on. The drive home was quiet, but not empty. In the dash glow, she looked from the lipstick to my hands on the wheel. She didn't ask. She tugged her dress higher and traced circles on her thigh, making my grip tighten. At home, she pulled me to the couch and straddled me, skirt bunched, breath hot and messy. Not tenderness. Claim. I let her set the rhythm. Let her chase the edge she wanted me to believe only I could give. When she shuddered and stilled, she pressed her forehead to mine. Don't make me beg, she whispered. I wouldn't, I said, the lie humming like a wire. She fell asleep tangled and warm. I eased out from under her and stood over the quiet wreckage of cushions and fabric. Tomorrow, I thought, and the word fell heavy. Tomorrow I'd set the hook proper. Dinner at our place. A toast, a slideshow labeled anniversary photos that wasn't. The rope and the proof. In the dark, I tucked the second lipstick into the pocket of her coat. Light as a rumor. Every plan has a point where it stops being a plan and becomes gravity. We were close now. I could feel the pull. She murmured in her sleep and reached toward the warm spot I'd left. Fingers closing on air. I watched and wondered whether I was building justice or just a monument to my own pride. Tomorrow, I told myself again, picturing the way her voice would finally rise in front of everyone we knew. Picturing my calm hands. Picturing the screen brightening like a blade. By morning, I'd already chosen the stage. Our living room warm and dim, just enough wine in everyone's glass to loosen tongues. Friends gathered for what Sarah thought would be a casual dinner, what I thought would be the opening act. She stood at the counter in a loose shirt that slid off one shoulder, slicing peppers with a rhythm that said she didn't know she was part of a trap. You didn't tell me you were inviting Chloe, she said. She's part of the group, I replied, rinsing tomatoes. Besides, you like her. Sarah's knife paused for a second too long. I do. The words were neutral, but her tone wasn't. I leaned over her shoulder, close enough that my breath stirred her hair. Good. I think she likes you too. She set the knife down and turned to face me. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said, brushing past her to pour wine. Let her think the bait was accidental. The day stretched long and taut. I worked from the couch, not because I had work to do, but because it kept me in her periphery. I answered fake messages with low chuckles, left my phone face down, let her decide whether to pick it up. She didn't yet. By evening, the air in the apartment was thick with garlic and the sweet, heavy smell of roasting meat. I showered late, left the bathroom door open so the steam spilled out. Sarah passed by, glancing in. Her eyes lingered on my bare shoulders, then flicked away. I dressed slowly, shirt half buttoned, belt hanging loose, while she moved from room to room, lighting candles. When I brushed against her in the hallway, her hand grazed my hip as if she didn't mean it. I didn't look back. The first guest arrived at 7. Laughter, coats on hooks, bottles of wine exchanged like small bribes. Chloe came in last, again, wearing a dark green dress that caught every curve. She hugged Sarah first, then me, her hands lingering just enough to be noticed. Sarah saw it. We ate, drank, talked. I kept my seat between the two of them, leaning toward one just long enough for the other to notice. The conversation looped around travel plans, bad bosses, the weather. Nothing dangerous. Yet, when dessert was nearly finished, I stood. Before everyone runs off, I've got something to show you. Anniversary photos. Sarah's head snapped toward me. We don't, she started, then stopped. Oh, I found some, I said. You'll love them. The TV lit the room. The first slide was safe. Her in her wedding dress, champagne in hand. The next, us on the beach during the honeymoon. Smiles, sand, sunlight. The third, not yet. I kept them waiting. Another beach shot, a dinner toast. Then a photo I'd found buried in her cloud storage. Her and her lover, half in shadow, his arm around her waist, his mouth close to her ear. Not explicit, just intimate enough to make the air change. A few people shifted in their seats. Someone cleared their throat. Sarah's jaw tightened. I clicked to the next. The hotel bed photo. The timestamp glowing at the bottom corner. Silence, except for the faint hum of the TV. Where's that from? Eli asked finally, his voice carefully casual. Sarah's eyes were on me now, wide and bright. This isn't funny. No, I said, voice low. It's not. She stood, the chair legs scraping the floor. Can we talk? In front of our friends? Sure. Her lips parted, then pressed into a line. She looked around, Chloe, Eli, the others, all watching, all waiting. This is out of context, she said. I tilted my head. Then give us the context. Her eyes flicked to Chloe, just for a heartbeat, and that was enough. I think we should, she started, but Chloe's voice cut in. You told me it was a mistake, she said softly. Sarah froze. Gasps, murmurs. The sound of someone setting their wine glass down too hard. I didn't smile. Smiling would make it small. Instead, I stepped forward, remote still in my hand, and said, Happy 1-month anniversary, Sarah. The screen went black, but the silence stayed bright. When the last guest left, Sarah was standing by the window, arms folded tight. I set the remote on the table, poured myself the last of the wine. You planned this, she said. Yes. Her voice shook. You humiliated me. You did that yourself, I replied, and walked past her to the bedroom. I could feel her eyes on my back the whole way. Tomorrow would be worse, for her. Tonight, I'd given her the first taste of the fall. The morning after the dinner felt like a house left open in the wind. Everything looked the same, but there was a wrongness you could smell. Sarah was at the kitchen counter when I came in, robe tied around her, hair pulled back so hard it made her look severe. The coffee pot gurgled between us. You think this is over? She asked, not looking at me. I poured my cup. I think it started. Her hands gripped the counter. They'll believe me. Will they? I took a slow sip. You saw their faces. She turned finally, eyes sharp enough to cut. You think you're clever, but you just made yourself look obsessed. Bitter. I can spin that. I smiled faintly. Try. By noon, I got a first message from Eli. Man, I don't know what to say. Are you okay? I replied with better now. Short, solid. Let him fill in the blanks. Chloe's came next. She's texting me nonstop. Wants me to say it was nothing. I typed back, and you will? Her answer was instant. Not unless you want me to. Sarah spent most of the day on the phone, pacing the living room. I kept my distance, working from the bedroom. I could hear her voice shifting, soft and pleading with one friend, sharp and offensive with another. Every call ended the same way. A long silence, then the sound of her dropping the phone onto the couch like it had burned her. By late afternoon, she appeared in the doorway, leaning on the frame. You're enjoying this. I looked up from my laptop. I'm patient. She stepped in, closing the door behind her. If I can't fix this, she trailed off, crossing the room slowly, then I might as well make it worth your while to forgive me. Her robe slipped as she reached me, bearing a shoulder, then more. She straddled my lap without waiting for permission. Her mouth was hot, demanding, the kind of kiss that wanted to erase memory. She moved against me in slow circles, her breath uneven. I let my hand slide up her thighs, feeling the tremor in her muscles. You could stop all of this, she whispered between kisses. Just stop. Could I? I murmured against her neck. Her nails dug into my shirt. Please. It wasn't quite a plea. It was a bargain. I kissed her back, let her feel me respond, let her think she might still win. Then I pulled away just enough to see her eyes. We're past stopping. She searched my face for a crack. Finding none, she climbed off me without a word, tightening her robe like armor. That night, messages from mutual friends trickled in. Some were cautious, some blunt. One woman from Sarah's work wrote, She's been known for this. You're not the first. I screenshotted it, saved it in the same folder as everything else. Sarah didn't come to bed. I heard the faint click of her laptop keys in the living room until after midnight. She was fighting, but she was fighting uphill now. The next morning, she tried another tactic, light, almost playful. I made pancakes, she called from the kitchen. We could talk over breakfast. I walked in, sat down, ate without speaking. She watched me like she was trying to read a code. Finally, you win, okay? You embarrass me. Everyone knows. You can stop now. I put down my fork. It's not about winning. It's about making sure you don't forget. Her eyes narrowed. You're sick. Probably, I said, and went to get my coat. When I left the apartment, Chloe was waiting in her car across the street. She rolled down the window. I assume she's miserable. She's working on it. Chloe grinned. Need me to add to it? Not yet, I said, climbing in. Timing is everything. As we drove off, I glanced back at the window. Sarah was standing there, arms crossed, watching us leave together. Exactly the image I wanted burned into her mind. By the end of the week, Sarah's defiance had started to fray. She still moved through the apartment like she owned it, but her glances were sharper, her silences longer. The little smiles she used to throw me in passing were gone. Every look now was an assessment. How much does he know? How much will he do? I made sure the answer to both questions was always more. Friday night, I told her I had work drinks. In reality, Chloe and I met at a rooftop bar, where the lights made everyone's skin look warmer than it was. She wore a dress the color of dark wine, hair loose, a deliberate contrast to the tight precision Sarah favored. We didn't touch much, just enough for anyone watching to think there was more. A hand at her lower back when we moved through the crowd. My arm over the back of her chair, while she laughed at something I said. Little things that would look like nothing in isolation, but would burn in Sarah's mind if they reached her. And they would. When I came home just after midnight, Sarah was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, phone in her hand. She didn't look up. "Good night?" she asked, voice casual in the way glass is casual before it shatters. "Yeah," I said, kicking off my shoes. We went to the Lantern. Her eyes flicked to me at the mention of the bar. She knew Chloe liked that place. She also knew she'd never been invited. "Who's we?" "Couple people from work." I kept walking toward the bedroom. When I came out from the shower, she was there, leaning on the doorframe, wearing nothing but one of my shirts. "You smell like her," she said. "Who?" She stepped closer, the fabric brushing her thighs. "Don't play stupid." I let my gaze drop slowly from her eyes to her bare legs. "If I wanted her," I said, "I wouldn't have come home." That made her blink. Then she crossed the room, grabbed my hand, and pressed it between her legs. Warm, damp. "Do you want me?" I looked at her for a long moment, then took my hand back. "You're not the one chasing anymore." She stood there, breathing hard, watching me get into bed without her. The next day, I started the social bleed. A carefully chosen photo of me and Chloe at the rooftop bar. Nothing explicit. Just the two of us laughing, a glass of wine in her hand, my arm around her chair. I didn't post it. I sent it to a friend who would. One who Sarah still thought was on her side. It took less than 2 hours for Sarah to see it. "You're disgusting," she spat, standing in the kitchen with her phone in her hand. "I'm just living my life," I said, taking a bite of toast. "You're trying to hurt me." I shrugged. Maybe I'm just not pretending anymore. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She'd never give me that. "If you want out, just say it." "Oh, I'm staying," I said, pushing my chair back. "I like watching you work this hard to keep something you already lost." That night she tried again. Sex's olive branch. She came to bed late, slid in behind me, her hand finding me under the sheets. She whispered my name, her mouth hot against my neck. I let her get me hard, let her climb on top and move the way she knew I liked. When she was close, when her breath was breaking, I pushed her off gently and rolled away. "Not tonight," I said into the pillow. The sound she made wasn't anger. It was frustration wrapped in something almost like fear. Sunday morning, I set the next stage. I invited Chloe for lunch at our place. Sarah's face when I told her was pure theater. A flash of shock, quickly smoothed into a neutral smile. "Sure," she said. "I'll make something nice." She did. Salad, bread, grilled chicken. The kind of meal that tries to impress without looking like it's trying. Chloe arrived in jeans and a tank top, casual but perfectly fitted. The conversation was polite, but barbed. Sarah asked Chloe about her dating life. Chloe asked Sarah about her friends. Every so often, Chloe's hand would brush mine as I passed her something, and Sarah's eyes would flick to the movement like a hawk tracking prey. By the time dessert hit the table, Sarah's jaw was tight enough to creak. When Chloe left, Sarah shut the door and turned to me. "She's in love with you." I shrugged. "Maybe." "And you like it?" I smiled. "Definitely." She stared at me for a long time, and I saw the rope tighten another notch. She didn't realize yet that she was already in the noose. The morning after Chloe's visit, Sarah was brittle in that quiet way that's worse than shouting. She moved through the apartment like she was made of glass, clinking mugs a little too hard, closing doors just shy of a slam. She didn't speak much, but her silence was loud. By noon, I gave her something to hear. I left my phone on the counter while I took a shower. The screen lit up twice, once with a message from Chloe. "Lunch soon?" "Just us. Need to talk about last night." Then again, a minute later, You look good. When I came out, Sarah was at the sink, rinsing a cup that didn't need rinsing. Chloe texted. She said, I dried my hair slowly. Did she? Yeah, twice. She didn't look at me. What did she say? Sarah's mouth was a hard line. Nothing important. That evening we went to Eli's birthday dinner. 15 people, one long table at a noisy restaurant. Perfect conditions for what I'd been waiting for. Sarah wore a tight black dress and heels she could barely walk in. The kind of outfit you wear when you're not trying to feel sexy. You're trying to win. I wore the shirt Chloe had once said made my shoulders look dangerous, just to see if Sarah noticed. She did. From the moment we sat down, I kept my attention drifting. Sometimes on Sarah, sometimes on Chloe, never too much on either. I laughed at Chloe's jokes, asked Sarah about her day, leaned in to hear Chloe better when the music got loud. Each move small enough to deny, big enough to feel. The first crack came during the second round of drinks. Chloe was telling a story about a trip she'd taken, her hand resting lightly on my forearm as she talked. I didn't move it away. Sarah's laugh cut through the table like glass. Careful, Chloe, she said. He's married, though I guess that's never stopped anyone. Conversations nearby faltered. Chloe froze for half a second, then smiled. We're just talking, Sarah. Uh-huh, Sarah said, sipping her wine. By dessert, the air between them was sharp enough to taste. When the server brought the cake, I leaned over to help Chloe cut it. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair screeching on the floor. Can I talk to you? She said to me, but her eyes never left Chloe. Now, I asked. Yes, now. The table had gone quiet. Someone cleared their throat. We stepped into the hall, outside the dining room. Sarah's voice was low but shaking. You're humiliating me. Am I? Or are you doing that yourself? Her eyes glistened, but her jaw stayed tight. You're making me look crazy. I leaned in just enough that she had to lean back. You don't need my help for that. Something in her broke then, not loudly, but cleanly. She shoved past me, back into the room. Enjoying yourself? She said to Chloe, loud enough for the whole table. Chloe's eyes widened. Sarah. No, go on, Sarah said, wine glass in hand. Tell everyone what it's like to flirt with your best friend's husband. Gasps, murmurs. Eli muttered something under his breath. I walked in behind her, calm as the eye of the storm. Sarah, I said evenly, sit down. She turned on me. Don't you tell me what to do. Not after. After what? I asked. She stopped, breath sharp, realizing she was inches from saying it all out loud. About the hotel. About the man whose name I hadn't said yet. Chloe looked between us, waiting. So, did everyone else? Sarah's hand trembled around her glass. Then she slammed it down hard enough that wine splashed onto the tablecloth. I'm going home, she said and walked out. I stayed. I smiled faintly when someone asked if I was okay. She's under stress, I said. Chloe lingered after most people left. You've got her right where you want her, she said quietly. Not yet, I said, but close. When I got home, Sarah was sitting on the floor by the bed, still in her dress, heels kicked off. She looked up at me with something that was almost defeat. You won, she said. I set my keys down. Not yet. She swallowed. What's left? I met her eyes. The truth. All of it. And then I walked past her into the bathroom, leaving her there with the weight of that sentence pressing the air thin. The morning after Eli's dinner, Sarah didn't get out of bed. I found her curled on her side, staring at nothing, the mascara she hadn't washed off smudged beneath her eyes. You gonna work? I asked, standing in the doorway. She didn't answer. I crossed the room and sat on the edge of the mattress. You know what I want. Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. You want to hurt me. I want the truth. I told you. I cut her off. Not the lies you've been patching together since the wedding. The real story. The hotel. The man. How long's been going on? Her throat worked, but she said nothing. Fine, I said, standing. We'll do it my way. I started with the messages. Screenshots I'd saved, printed on glossy paper, laid out neatly on the kitchen table like exhibits in court. Text about the usual place. A photo of a room service tray in a hotel I recognized by its cheap patterned carpet. The picture of her on the bed, time-stamped glowing in the corner. When she finally emerged, wearing my hoodie over her nightshirt, she stopped cold. Sit, I said. She stayed standing. You've got two choices. We talk here, just us Or we talk where people can hear us? Her jaw clenched. She sat. It was before the wedding, she said quickly, as if speed might make it smaller. It was stupid, and I ended it. Ended it. I slid the most recent text toward her. 2 weeks ago. Same hotel. Same man. Her breath caught. You could tell me his name, I said. She stared at the paper, like it might burn through the table. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She shook her head, the first hint of moisture in her eyes. It's not what you think. Really? I leaned in, because I think you married me while fucking someone else. I think you smiled in my face and let me believe we were building something, while you were already demolishing it from the inside. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I left her at the table and walked to the bedroom, coming back with the 2 lipsticks from the glove box. I set them down between us. You see these? She blinked at them, confused. Props, I said. I've been leaving them around for weeks, letting you think I was stepping out on you, watching you unravel. Her eyes widened, shock first, then realization. You. Yes, I wanted you to feel it. Every second of doubt. Every little twist in your gut. I wanted you to understand what you've been handing me since before the honeymoon. Her voice cracked. That's sick. It's fair. She pushed back from the table, pacing the kitchen. You think this makes you better than me? You're just as twisted. I stood, meeting her glare. Difference is, I didn't stand in front of our families and promise something I had no intention of keeping. Her breath came faster now, hands curling into fists. What do you want from me? The truth, in public. Her head snapped toward me. No. Yes. She shook her head again, more violently this time. I can't. You can. You will. Tomorrow night. Our place. You'll invite the same people who were here last time, and you'll tell them what you did. Her face went pale. And if I don't, I smile without warmth. Then I will, and I won't be gentle. For a moment, I thought she might throw something at me. Instead, she sagged against the counter, shoulders trembling. You're going to destroy me, she whispered. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint trace of her perfume from a night before. No, Sarah, you already did that yourself. I'm just making sure the wreckage is visible. I left her there and went to bedroom. The quiet behind me felt like the moment before a rope goes taut. Tomorrow, I'd make her confess, and I'd make sure no one looked at her the same way again. By late afternoon, the apartment was staged like nothing was wrong. Soft lighting, wine breathing on the counter, the smell of roasted lamb drifting from the oven. It was almost perfect, almost domestic, almost honest. Sarah moved through the rooms without speaking, her hair pinned up, makeup just enough to hide the hollows under her eyes. She was wearing the navy dress I'd always said made her look untouchable. Tonight, it would make her look exposed. The guest list was exactly as I demanded. Chloe, Eli, the others from the last dinner. She'd invited them under the pretense of clearing the air. I let her send the messages, her hands shaking over the keyboard. When the first knock came, I opened the door. Chloe stepped in, giving me a look that said she knew what was coming. Behind her, Eli carried a bottle of wine, his girlfriend offering a tight smile to Sarah. By the time everyone had arrived, the air in the room was stretched thin. We ate, we drank, we laughed too loudly at safe jokes. Every so often, I caught Sarah's eyes flicking toward me like she was checking whether I'd keep my word. When the plates were cleared, I poured myself a fresh glass and leaned against the counter. Sarah has something she wants to say. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood. She smoothed her dress with trembling hands. Her voice faltered. Go on, I said softly, so only she could hear. Her eyes darted around the table. Friends, half-friends, witnesses. Chloe's gaze was steady, Eli's unreadable. I need to apologize, she began, and there was already a ripple in the room. To all of you, and to, her eyes found mine, to my husband. I kept my face blank. I've done something unforgivable, she said. I was unfaithful. The words seemed to pull the temperature down a few degrees. No one spoke. It started before the wedding, she went on, her voice gathering a strange strength. I told myself I'd end it, but I didn't. Even after we came home from a honeymoon, I kept seeing him. Who? Eli's girlfriend asked quietly. Sarah closed her eyes. It doesn't matter. It matters, I said, still leaning against the counter. She hesitated, then said the name. The man's name. A friend of a friend we all knew. enough that the recognition sparked across the faces around the table. Murmurs, whispers, the faint scrape of a fork against porcelain. "I lied to my husband," Sarah said, her voice breaking now. "I lied to all of you. I can't take it back, but I can at least say it where it needs to be said." I let the silence hang for a moment, then nodded once. "Thank you." My tone was flat, but everyone could hear the finality in it. She sat down hard, staring at her hands. I could see the flush creeping up her neck, the tension in her shoulders. This wasn't contrition, it was survival. She'd given a confession because I'd forced it out of her, and everyone knew it. Conversation limped back into the room in awkward fragments. Chloe asked for more wine. Eli muttered something about the lamb being good, but the air was ruined now. Nothing could stitch it back together. When the last guest left, Sarah stood by the window, her back to me. Satisfied, she asked. I set down the empty wine bottle. "Almost." She turned, eyes red but dry. "What else is there?" "You'll see," I said, walking past her toward the bedroom. Because the truth was, tonight had been about exposure. Tomorrow would be about the ruin that followed. The morning after her confession, Sarah didn't bother with pretense. No makeup, no carefully chosen dress, just sweatpants and one of my old t-shirts. The hem pulled low as if fabric could make her invisible. Her phone buzzed steadily on the table. She didn't touch it. "Not going to answer?" I asked over coffee. "They're not calling to check on me," she said flatly. I shrugged. "Then you already know what they're saying." She flinched, but only slightly. By noon, she was curled on the couch, scrolling through social media. I could hear the quiet clicks as she blocked, deleted, unfollowed. Damage control in real time. "You can delete them," I said, "but you can't unhear what they'll tell everyone else." She didn't respond. The first call came from her mother. She went into the bedroom to take it, but her voice carried through the door. The tone shifted from defensive to pleading, then to silence. When she came out, her face was pale, her eyes hard. "She's not taking sides," Sarah said. "That's her being polite." I replied, "Politeness is what people use when they don't want to say they've already decided." She stared at me for a long moment. "You enjoy this?" I sipped my coffee. "No, I enjoy accuracy." By evening, her work group chat had gone quiet. I knew because Chloe had already sent me a screenshot. 3 of her colleagues speculating about the kind of person Sarah must be, one of them suggesting maybe she'd been like this for years. I saved the image to my folder without comment. We ate dinner in silence. After, I took a call from Chloe in the kitchen. She didn't bother lowering her voice. "She's done," Chloe said. No one's defending her. Even the ones who like her are just staying quiet. "Good," I said. "You're going to finish this, aren't you?" "Yes." Sarah walked in just as I hung up. She didn't ask who I'd been talking to. She didn't need to. That night, she came to bed and lay stiff beside me. In the dark, she spoke without looking at me. "What's left?" "You've taken my friends. My reputation. Everyone knows. Isn't that enough?" I rolled onto my side, watching her silhouette. "You think this is about quantity. It's not. It's about permanence." Her voice was quiet. "You want me alone?" I didn't answer. The next morning, I sent a short email from a new account to her boss. Nothing slanderous, just a polite message with the same photo I'd shown at the dinner. Attached, no explanation beyond. "Thought you should be aware." By lunch, Sarah had been asked to take some personal leave. She didn't tell me. Chloe did. When she got home, she dropped her bag on the floor and sat at the table. "It was you." I looked at her. "I didn't make you cheat. I didn't make you lie. I just let the right people see what you've been keeping from them." Her eyes shone with a fury that didn't quite hide the fear. "You destroyed my life." I stood, leaning across the table until our faces were inches apart. "No, Sarah, I've documented it." That night, she didn't come to bed. I heard her crying softly in the living room around 2 a.m. But I didn't go to her. This wasn't about comfort. This was about ensuring she remembered every day from now on that she had been caught, exposed, and left standing in the ruin she'd made. Tomorrow, I decide whether to end it or let her keep living inside it. By the time the sun rose, I knew exactly how it would end. Not with shouting. Not with some grand explosion. Quiet. Clean. Permanent. Sarah was asleep on the couch, curled beneath a throw blanket, her face pale and swollen from crying. I stood there for a long moment. Studying her the way you study something you've already decided to throw away, taking one last inventory of the details, not out of love, but out of habit. I went to the bedroom and pulled the envelope from the dresser drawer. Inside was everything. The printed screenshots, the photos, the hotel receipts, the messages from her friends, the confirmation from her workplace about personal leave. Proof distilled into paper. When she woke, I was at the table with 2 mugs of coffee. She sat across from me without a word. "This is the end," I said, sliding the envelope toward her. Her eyes flicked to it, then back to me. "You're leaving?" "Yes." She opened the flap and saw the first photo, the hotel bed, the man's hand on her hip. She didn't keep looking. "What's this for?" "It's yours. Keep it, in case you ever think about telling yourself a different version of what happened." Her jaw tightened. "And if I tell people you're not who they think you are?" I leaned back in my chair. "Then you'll learn the difference between losing your reputation and losing everything." She didn't ask what I meant. She already knew I'd made copies. I'd packed the night before. Just 2 suitcases. The rest it left behind like the skin of snake doesn't need anymore. Chloe had offered me her spare room. I hadn't said yes, but I hadn't said no either. I set my keys on the table. "The lease is in your name now. So is the rent." Her voice cracked. "You're just walking away?" I stood. "I'm giving you what you've earned. Every day you wake up in this apartment, you'll remember who used to be here and why he's not." "At the door," she called after me. "Do you still love me?" I didn't turn around. "No, but I still remember when I did. And that's worse." The air outside was sharp, the kind of cold that wakes you up from the inside out. I didn't look back at the building. Some things aren't worth one last glance. I walked to the waiting car, put my bags in the trunk, and slid into the passenger seat. Chloe was behind the wheel. "Done?" she asked. "Done." She smiled, pulled away from the curb in the apartment, and Sarah shrunk in the mirror until they were nothing but background. People talk about revenge like it's a fire you feed until there's nothing left. They're wrong. It's not fire. It's a knife. You sharpen it in silence. You keep it hidden. And when it's ready, you make one cut, deep enough that it never fully heals. I'd made mine, and I would never have to lift it again.